let's dive in. I'm putting on the timer.
All
I
right,
think I'm
so
going first, right? And
yeah,
let
so
me
let me. I'll set it up for you because
thank you.
we were talking about earlier today just about this whole Elon Musk and the Peter Thiel boys taking over our treasury or whatever, and which by the way has worked out great because I don't know if you know Doge has now saved the U.S. taxpayer $48 billion, which is apparently enough to buy 3 cartons of eggs. So they're doing a wonderful job. It's really good stuff. No, but you had a good frame for this because they're going in there, like Elon Musk said, we're going to put this through the wood chipper, he said,
Yeah.
which is my son's coming. We're going to watch Fargo tomorrow. But that's what comes to mind. But
Yeah.
you had a good kind of questions to ask and a way to frame this kind of thing, especially as it regards money.
Yeah. I mean, not just specific to Musk and Thiel's little young men and teenage boys, but just in general, just in general, this moment of total destruction
Yeah.
of our federal government, and why people aren't bothered by that, or disturbed or even cheering it on. And not just because they're, these goobers, these avatar goobers are in there for them, these, thinking just because people are Musk fans or Trumpers, but they're literally like think that this is, this sort of libertarian wet dream of burn it all to the ground. And it's interesting. I talked a little bit. I was on Sherry Jacobus' podcast, and we talked a little bit about this as well. Uh, and I was just, it started to occur to me that I don't want to hear about, and I don't think it's productive, and I don't think it's going to do anything, and bring any positive result for anyone, or it being that we want to stop this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to stop anything to just go with this sort of like, well, the Dems just have to be better Democrats and we just have to let people know what we stand for. And it's like, no, there's no parties anymore. It's that whole thing is done. It's done. We got to the end of the road of that. So what people are really missing, in my opinion, what the American body is missing is just a real simple conversation about what the federal government is like. How did it come into being? What does it mean to be a democracy? Language like that and storytelling, simple step one, step two, and asking people questions about, well, what would you rather have? And how would that work? That is going to get us to at least get a lot of people on a common ground and a sort of same page to turn and sort of say, okay, let's see what we can now do. So how that goes, I think it starts with things like, okay, why do we have these big things? This big federal government, just start talking about that. Well, yep, we had a monarchy, and that really just meant that there was this guy, and he was completely above any and all laws, and he owned us. We were his property. Our land was his property, or everything was belonged to him, and he could just come in and do whatever he wanted to our lives. Right? If you were his subject, he could do anything he wanted to your life, and you had zero recourse. There was nowhere you could go, nothing you could turn to if he wanted to come and take your property, take your thing. You could work your whole life, and he could just come take all of your stuff. You could have Social Security you're waiting for, and he could just go in and take it all and shove it in his pockets, and and nobody wanted that. People decided, yeah, that's not what I want. That's not the life I want. I want a life where we throw that fucker off. So what do we then? That was like, well, what are we going to do? And it's, well, if you're going to throw off a monarch or an oligarch, you need to then learn how to govern yourself. You can choose that system of government. Okay, let's figure out how to govern ourselves. Well, what does that mean to govern yourselves? Well, we're going to have agreed upon rules. Like, just think you're all in a big house together all of a sudden with a bunch of people. You got neighbors. Well, let's have some fucking rules like that. That's my tuna fish salad in the refrigerator. I want it to last. just everybody goes to people have had jobs or they go to a job. You've got rules even in the workplace. There's some stuff you can't do. You can't just go and hit your coworker because they frustrate you. You can't just molest another one, right? Like we know that. Like there's just so that we can have a productive experience here as a society. Let's have some rules, and those are our laws. That became the Constitution. Okay, that makes sense, right? Everybody, does that make sense? Great. All right, and then we're like, all right, well, we gotta do shit too. So you need rules, but we also who's gonna enforce the rules, and how are you gonna pay those people? Okay, and how do we have a system where, like, we don't want just thugs, so we'll have to have a judiciary system, we have to have a court system. So these things are all born everything we have in the federal government was born out of this need to just have a civil society so you could kinda go to the rest of the world, "Leave me the fuck alone, I'm gonna go live the life I wanna go live, I'm gonna do my best." All this talk of meritocracy coming from, the Trumpers now, "We need meritocracy, get rid of everything," and it's like, well, that was our federal government.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the society we had. So, we built this thing, it took a couple 100 years. Of course it gets bigger. The nation got bigger. There's functions and things, and stuff was working and stuff was not working, but it's gonna grow, and how does it grow? It grows you can't just hire people and not pay them, it grows from our tax dollars. This is what we agree to pay our tax into. We're paying money into that so that this federal government that works for us can work, right? It can work. It's who's going to pay for this shit, right? That it came down to that, and how are we going to pay for it? If there's not a king coming, right? Well, we're gonna have to pay some tax. We don't want to give all of our money to this dude, right? We're gonna give it to this body that we're going to create, and the people are going to be employed, and they're going to work for us. This whole thing is going to work out. That's it, guys. That's it. That's are you on the page of that or are you on the page of no, I just want some dude and his 19-year-old, intern who calls himself Big Balls, right? And the other guy that says I'm a eugenicist, right? And the Nazis, and these all of them, only dudes that Peter Thiel cultivates to go in and actually put their hands in their bullshit and their stupid fucked up code, and they're plugging in their servers, right? That they grew up playing Fortnite on, and the only grooves in their brain came from 4chan and Fortnite. It has to have a 4 in front of it. Vocabulary, like, and then that's formed otherwise it's smooth brained except for those grooves, right? And plugging their server in and stealing all our fucking money, stealing all our data, all that shit I just described. What? It's just a handful of fucktards go in there and fucking take it. That's what we want now? Really? No. Nobody wants that. But you've got to explain the other thing. I don't want to hear about Dems and platforms and what. I don't give a fuck. I want people to start explaining shit that way. Speak dumb. I'm not saying that everybody's dumb. Our brains are overloaded with stuff. It's
Yeah.
crazy out there. There's so much noise. People's attention spans, and most people, they've lost track of that. They've lost track of what the federal government means in their lives and what happens if we're going to get rid of it all. Okay, well then what the fuck am I paying for? What
Yeah.
am I paying for? Why do you need to take any of my tax dollars at all? If all this shit is going to be broken or thrown in the trash or burned or damaged or fucked up in some way because of big balls, what am I paying for? Why do you need my money?